I moved into my new apartment a few nights ago, feeling excited for a fresh start. I was a 32-year-old freelance graphic designer, ready to focus on my work. The apartment had a cozy, vintage charm that I loved. But that first night, things felt a bit off. It was quiet, or so I thought, until I heard a giggle. A toddler's laugh. It came from the empty unit next door. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was my mind playing tricks. But the laughter kept coming. When it suddenly stopped, I thought it was my imagination. As the nights went by, the laughter returned with soft thumps. It felt like someone was moving around next door. My stomach twisted in knots, but I brushed it off. Maybe I was just imagining things. The second night, I heard it again, and curiosity mixed with unease. Then, I found a drawing taped to my door. It was a child's crayon sketch of a house. I didn't recognize it. My heart raced. I tried convincing myself it was just a misplaced drawing, but deep down, I felt it was meant for me. One evening, while sitting on my couch, I caught a glimpse of something in my window's reflection. A small figure. I froze. It seemed like a child. I spun around, and nothing was there. My heart hammered in my chest. Was I losing it? I started asking myself questions. Was I alone in my apartment? Maybe the previous tenant had kids who left things behind. That seemed like a logical explanation. Still, I found it hard to focus on my work with the laughter echoing in my mind. One night, while I was on the couch, a cold breeze swept through the room. I was sure all my windows were closed. A creeping anxiety washed over me. That laughter again, it was louder, echoing through the walls. I wanted to knock on my neighbor's door but feared they'd think I was crazy. Needing to escape, I decided to take a walk. Outside, as I strolled past the vacant unit, something caught my eye. A tiny shoe. Child-sized. My stomach dropped. Whose was it? I rushed back to my apartment, heart racing. Then I heard laughter again. I felt like I wasn't alone in the shadowy corners of my own home. Fear wrapped around me, but then I whispered into the darkness, "Is anyone there?" I felt ridiculous. Expecting silence, I was startled when a soft whisper trickled through the air. I couldn't tell where it came from, but my breath caught in my throat. The air felt thick with tension. I turned back toward my door. What was happening? Was I imagining everything? My fingers trembled as I reached for the doorknob. Before I could open it, that small giggle rang out, echoing in my ears. I steadied myself, feeling even more exposed. I had to face whatever was out there. With a shaky breath, I opened the door. Would I find emptiness? Or would the laughter lead me deeper into this unsettling mystery? As I pushed the door open, the laughter seemed to grow louder. It wasn't just a giggle now, it had transformed into a chorus of playful sounds, echoing in the hallway. I stumbled out into the dim light, heart racing. The hallway was empty, devoid of any signs of life. I knew I heard it. Where was it coming from? I hesitated only a second before stepping further out. The cold air washed over me, and I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to shake off the creeping chill. The laughter faded, but a persistent flickering caught my eye. Down at the end of the hall, the light above the neighbor's door flickered on and off, like someone was trying to catch my attention. Curiosity pulled me forward. I edged closer to the door, half expecting someone to appear, but still, no one materialized. I raised my hand, fingers hovering over the doorbell, my mind racing with potential scenarios. What if it was just a child playing? What if I was about to confront something terrifying? Just as I decided to step back, I heard a soft tap, tap, tap from within the unit. My pulse quickened. Mustering courage, I knocked on the door instead. The sound echoed back, hollow and empty. I cursed under my breath. There was no answer. Feeling foolish and unsettled, I was about to turn and head back when I noticed it. A sliver of something paper was poking out from beneath the door. A crumpled drawing, just like the one that was taped to my door. My heart raced. Had they left it for me? Without thinking, I knelt down and pulled the paper loose. It was a sketch of a playground, filled with childish scrawls, but there was something unsettling about it. In the corner, tiny stick figures represented a child and what appeared to be an adult. The adult figure had a twisted, elongated face, with jagged lines that looked almost menacing. Confusion bubbled up within me. Why would a child draw something so unsettling? Suddenly the laughter returned, sharper this time, echoing down the hall. I jumped to my feet, clutching the drawing as if it could protect me. Without thinking, I pressed my ear against the door. The soft thumps I heard before were back, rhythmic and almost methodical. It sounded like someone pacing, but the laughter continued. I pulled away. This wasn't right. Then I noticed something else. A small trail of crumbs on the floor leading away from the door, a path that macabrely suggested something had been there, something that wasn't supposed to be. My breath caught. Were kids really in that apartment, or was my mind playing tricks on me? The laughter escalated into another giggle, and I saw it. A fleeting shadow darted at the corner of my vision, disappearing down the opposite end of the hall. Panic surged through me. I couldn't stay here. Before I could react, I heard another sound, a distinct thump, but this time it came from inside my own apartment. My heart raced in disbelief. I bolted back towards my door, pulling it open again. When I stepped inside, the laughter faded, replaced by an eerie quiet. But I could have sworn I heard footsteps following behind me. That's when the air in my apartment shifted. I stood frozen by the door, the unsettling stillness wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down, an uninvited guest in my home. The shadows seemed to stretch across the walls, flickering in the ambient light from the street, making everything appear more distorted. I shut the door behind me, heart pounding. The apartment wasn't supposed to feel this way. It was my place, my refuge. But now, it was a prison filled with unseen threats. I took a cautious step forward, scanning the room for any signs of movement. My eyes fell on the living room, where the dim light barely reached. That's when I noticed it, a figure reflected in the glass of my picture frame. My heart leaped into my throat. I whipped around, but the room was empty. Just my own frantically beating heart echoing in the silence. I rubbed my temples and took a shaky breath, convincing myself it was just a trick of the light. But then I saw it again. This time, darker, more defined, standing just behind me. And before I could fully turn around, I felt a cold breeze ripple through the room. I could almost hear the laughter return, swirling around me, teasing me. I shook my head, trying to dispel the creeping fear. It had to be my imagination. I made my way to the window, hoping the fresh air would help clear my thoughts. When I peered outside, nothing was amiss in the world beyond my walls. The street was eerily quiet, the occasional rustle of leaves the only sound breaking through the silence. Then, I heard it again. A low thud followed by a scratch against the wood floor, like something dragging through the silence. My heart raced as I turned back toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I took a tentative step forward, then another, each noise drawing my attention further into the murk of the unknown. As I approached my bedroom, the fingers of doubt gripped my mind. What if someone was really in my apartment? What if the drawing, the laughter, all tied back to something sinister? I reached for the handle, but hesitation washed over me. I had to know. With a surge of courage, I swung the door open. The room was dark, the shadows thick. I fumbled for the light switch, but it wouldn't budge. I tried again, my pulse pounding. Still nothing. Panic started to set in. I turned my back to the door, ready to escape, when I noticed something out of place on the floor. There it was, a single red crayon, the same shade used in the drawing earlier. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. It felt warm to the touch, almost alive. That's when I saw it, a figure, slightly hunched, peering through the darkness at the far corner of the room. I couldn't breathe. Then it smiled. An impossibly wide smile that stretched far too much for any human face. The air turned thick as I stumbled backward. There was no way I was imagining this. I bolted for the door, but just as I reached it, everything went dark. Fear coursed through me like cold water. I had to get out. I blinked, confusion washing over me as the darkness swallowed every ounce of light. Was I still in my room? I could hear my own breath, quick and panicked, filling the void around me. It was stifling. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the space to return to normal. Just a moment, I thought, just a moment of calm. But that calm never came. Instead, an eerie sensation wrapped around me, as if an unseen hand was pulling me deeper into the void. I felt my heart thudding against my chest, urging me to move, to fight my way through the blackness. I took a step forward, but it felt wrong, like I was walking on air. My leg didn't connect with the floor. For a moment, I feared I was falling into an endless abyss. Panic washed over me again, and I clenched my fists, forcing myself to take another step. This time I felt the cool, hard surface beneath my foot. With a thrust, I pushed through the darkness, reaching for anything solid. My fingers brushed against the wall, guiding me toward what I hoped was the door. I felt my way along, each heartbeat echoing louder in my ears. Then I heard it, a whisper, soft and mocking, just beyond my grasp. "Can you find me?" The voice slithered through the air, sharp and taunting, filling me with ice-cold dread. I froze, scanning the room for any sign of life, but the shadows were still too thick. "Who's there?" I croaked, my voice barely above a whisper. The only answer was a low chuckle that sent shivers racing down my spine. It pointedly reminded me I was not alone. Gathering my nerve, I focused on the exit, urging my limbs forward. I couldn't stay here. I turned my shoulder to the direction I thought led to the door and stumbled into the hall. The moment I crossed the threshold, the whispers escalated into chaotic laughter. It felt like a storm raging in my ears. I barreled down the hallway, desperate for the light beyond. I dashed into the living room, but the sudden brightness felt blinding. I flinched, struggling to adjust as I took stock of my surroundings. Everything appeared the same, yet wrong. The room looked untouched, but my heart told me a different story. Then I spotted something, or rather someone, sitting on the couch. It was small and hunched, the features obscured in shadow. A shudder rippled through me. "Who's there?" I asked again, forcing my voice to stay steady. The figure turned slowly. I could see it was a child with a head full of messy hair. My stomach twisted at the sight. "I found you," it replied, a grin stretching across its face. But that smile didn't belong on a child's face, it twisted in a way that tore at my sanity. I staggered back, eyes wide. "What do you want?" In that split second, I remembered the crayon I had dropped. "You took it," I gasped. "What do you want with me?" The child merely giggled, the laughter burrowing beneath my skin. I turned to flee, but the front door slammed shut, rattling the frame. My heart sank. I was trapped. "Let me out!" I screamed, banging on the door as I glanced back at the child. But instead of fear, they looked excited, as if the game was just beginning. I didn't know what came next, but I could feel a darker presence looming, suffocating the air around me. There was something worse than just this encounter. I needed to find out who or what was really in my house. I pressed my back against the door, my heart racing. The child on the couch remained still, watching me with that unsettling grin. I scanned the room, looking for an escape, but the walls felt like they were closing in. The laughter still echoed in my ears, a cruel reminder of my isolation. Please, I said, my voice trembling. Just let me go. But the child didn't respond. Instead, it tilted its head, curiosity dancing in its eyes. With dread pooling in my stomach, I turned my gaze to the window. It was shut tight, covered in dark curtains that seemed to absorb the last flickers of light. I couldn't see if it was still night outside or if dawn had come to save me. I took a cautious step back. The child shifted slightly, the grin still plastered across its face. Do you want to play? It asked, the innocence of the question clashing with the darkness around us. I shook my head. No games. I just want to leave. As I spoke, I caught a glimpse of something moving out of the corner of my eye. My breath hitched when the curtain fluttered, revealing a hint of movement beyond the glass. I stepped closer, peering through the fabric. But all I saw was darkness. Then I heard it again. The whisper. Find me. My legs urged me to move away from the window, but curiosity pulled me closer. What do you mean? I shouted out, who are you? The room fell silent. The child watched me intently, its eyes wide and bright. Then from behind me, a soft thud broke the stillness. I jerked around, my heart pounding as I searched for the source. That's when I noticed it, my crayon. It lay on the floor, oddly out of place. I hadn't dropped it in the living room, I'd last seen it in my bedroom. Fear washed over me again as I bent to pick it up. The moment my fingers grazed the surface, a chill raced through me. No! The child shrieked, the grin vanishing, replaced with a furious glare. Not yet. I backed away slowly. What do you want with my crayon? It's mine. I found it first. Suddenly, the air around me thickened, and shadows started shifting near the corners of the room. They twisted and turned, coalescing into indistinct shapes. I felt the temperature drop, my breath visible as a mist in the air. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape the unnatural presence filling the room. I turned to the door, but in an instant, the child darted toward me, its small hands reaching out. The laughter rang anew, echoing like a taunt as the shadows closed in. Then, just as quickly as it began, everything went quiet. The shadows pulled back. I opened my eyes, confused, clutching the crayon tight. The child stood still, watching me with an unnerving calm. Come play, it said softly, almost sweetly, but the edge in its tone was anything but comforting. I felt an adrenaline surge. I couldn't stay here. I had to escape. Before I could think twice, I darted past the child, my heart pounding as I flung myself down the hallway. An all-consuming dread followed close behind. As I neared the front door, I hesitated. Something whispered in the back of my mind, urging me to stop. I glanced back one last time at the living room. That child. It felt like a trap, but I needed to know what I was up against. Then I froze. The door was ajar. It hadn't been like that before. It hadn't. I moved toward it, pushing the door open slowly. The cool air washed over me, carrying the scent of something familiar, something wrong. I squinted into the dim light but didn't see anyone. Not yet. With a last glance back, I stepped outside, the warmth of the sun flooding over me. But before I could fully exhale, a shadow loomed just behind me. My stomach dropped. I turned slowly, and that's when I saw it. It wasn't just a shadow. It was a figure, small but distinct, with wild hair and a dirt-smeared face. The child stood so close that I could see the flecks of mud clinging to its shirt, and the wide grin returned, but this time it didn't feel friendly. Hi there, it said, voice unnaturally high. The familiar laughter echoed in my mind, creeping back with an unsettling familiarity. You came to play, right? I staggered back, heart racing. I'm not playing anything, I stammered, scanning for a way around this new figure. Get away from me. The child's face twisted in confusion, then, without warning, it lunged forward, small hands outstretched. I turned and sprinted down the steps, adrenaline propelling me into the open yard. The sunlight was blinding, but the feeling of safety was fleeting as I realized the child followed, moving faster than it should have been able to. "Wait!" It called, laughter breaking through the air again, a sound that chipped away at my resolve. "You need to find me." I dashed past the tall hedges that framed the yard, seeking refuge from the bizarre chase. I could hear its feet slapping against the ground, the sound blending with the rustling of leaves in the wind. My breath came in sharp gasps as I rounded the side of the house. The backyard was empty. The swings creaked eerily in the breeze, the slide looked inviting but threatening. My eyes darted everywhere, searching for a sign of escape, a way out. But there was nothing. "Playtime's just starting." The child's voice rang out from behind me. I turned sharply to face it, fully expecting it to be right on my tail. But instead, there was nothing. I was alone again. I hesitated, the silence almost deafening. I could feel the panic building. I wanted to scream, but fear paralyzed me. Instead, I crouched behind the garden shed, breathless, my mind racing. What did they want from me? Then I heard it again, whispers, soft but insistent. "Find me." It was the same voice, distant but close at the same time. I closed my eyes tight, willing it to stop, to scream for help, but no sound came. Slowly, I opened my eyes and peeked out from my hiding spot. Then I saw it, a figure in the distance, partly hidden by the trees, beckoning me. I didn't want to move, but something inside me compelled me forward. The calls promised answers. My legs felt heavy, but I forced them to work. Each step felt wrong, like I was moving against an unseen current. As I neared the edge of the trees, the whispers grew louder, and I felt the air thicken around me. I stepped into the shade, crossing the threshold into a dimly lit world where the sunlight couldn't reach. Then everything stopped. The figure turned. It was another child, just as dirty and wild-eyed. "You found me," it exclaimed, and for a split second, I felt a twisted sense of relief. But that warmth faded quickly as I noticed the look in its eyes, devoid of innocence. "What is happening?" I gasped, backing away. "Time to play another game." The joy in its voice sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could respond, the laughter erupted again, bouncing across the trees and engulfing me. The world around began to spin, the ground shifting beneath my feet. I stumbled backward. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the grass, sunlight blazing down as if nothing had happened. My heart raced, and I quickly looked around, desperate to confirm if I was still alone. There was no eerie laughter, no children, just the distant chirp of birds and the rustle of leaves in the soft breeze. But the moment of calm was short-lived. I felt it. A chill crawled up my spine, a sense of being watched. My gaze darted toward the house, and that's when I saw it, a shadow flitting past one of the windows. I stood up abruptly, nerves on edge. Had I really just dreamed all of that? Cautiously, I approached the back door. It swung open with a creak, signaling either an invitation or a warning. I hesitated. My instincts screamed at me to turn around, but curiosity pulled at me. What if they were still inside? Once again, silence enveloped me as I stepped through the threshold. I needed to know what was happening. I moved slowly through the dark hallway, the wooden floorboards creaking underfoot. My hands trembled, and I brushed them against the walls, grounding myself against the fear. The living room was untouched, but scattered toys and forgotten snacks told a story. The air felt heavier, like anticipation hung in the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. I turned on the light, the beam cutting through the gloom. That's when I noticed a small, muddy handprint on the wall, just above a portrait. A cold shudder ran through me. It was the same small handprint I'd seen on the child. I backed away slowly, my heart racing as I went deeper into the house, hoping to find answers. The whispers returned, a soft murmur that began to fill the space around me. "Find us." I clenched my fists and shouted, "Stop it." My voice echoed off the walls, desperate and void of confidence. I felt foolish, challenging the unknown. But their laughter, if that was what it was, only intensified. It clawed at my sanity. I stumbled into the kitchen, hoping to regain my composure. A small figure caught my eye from outside the window, standing in the yard. My breath hitched. The first child? Or another one? I couldn't tell. The figure was small, its back turned to me, and it looked like it was hunched over, absorbed in something. Panic flared again, and I rushed to the back door, but it creaked ominously as I pulled it open. The figure turned its face obscured by wild hair, but I felt the same twisted delight in those eyes. "Let us continue the game." It squeaked, and before I could respond, it dashed toward a patch of trees bordering the yard, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. I stood frozen. The laughter echoed in my mind, ringing louder this time. How could I run? Where would I even go? They weren't just playing, they were hunting. Just then, I heard quick footsteps behind me, light and fast. I spun around, and my heart dropped. The second child stood in the doorway, blocking my escape. It whispered, "You can't leave yet." Then the shadows around me deepened, and I realized I was not alone. In that moment, surrounded by the remnants of my fears, something new washed over me. I needed to confront this, whatever it was. Was it worth the risk? That's when I noticed a reflection in the glass of the back door, a third figure just beyond the trees, watching. I stood there, feeling the weight of the child's eyes on me from the doorway. All I could do was stare back, heart hammering in my chest. "What do you want?" I managed to say, my voice trembling. The child just smiled wider, eyes like dark pools of mischief, and repeated, "You can't leave yet." Behind me, I could still see the tall figure in the reflection. Whoever or whatever it was continued to watch. It felt like a game, but with stakes I couldn't comprehend. Fear tugged at my heels, but I forced myself not to back away. It would only show weakness. "Let me go!" I shouted again, feeling more desperate. The child in front of me tilted his head, amusement dancing across his face. "It's not time yet," he said, his voice an unsettling sing-song. Suddenly, the kitchen lights flickered above me, casting strange shadows. The laughter swelled and then fell silent, leaving an eerie hush that wrapped around my ears. I could feel the child's eyes boring into me, as if they were waiting for something, some signal to act. Out of instinct, I turned back to the glass door. The third figure hadn't moved, almost like it was blending into the trees, just an outline against the darkening sky. I took a deep breath, summoning my courage. "What do you want from me?" I asked, this time quieter, more tentative. The child's grin only widened. "We want to play. Find us. We'll show you." Before I could process what that meant, he suddenly darted to the left, disappearing back into the shadow of the house. Panic surged through me. I instinctively glanced back at the third figure, but it was gone. I moved toward the doorway, the urge to escape pushing me forward, but terror gripped my feet. "Wait!" I shouted, not sure who or what I was calling to. That's when I heard it. A soft giggle floated through the air, a haunting melody that seemed to wrap around my senses. I had to follow it. I stepped out of the kitchen and out of the house, cold air hitting my skin. The backyard was deserted, but the sound of laughter echoed again, coming from somewhere within the trees. I sprinted to the edge of the yard, drawn by the sound. As I reached the trees, the laughter stopped abruptly. My breath was heavy, and panic tightened in my chest. Shadows moved around me, and I caught a glimpse of fabric flitting between the trunks, a child darting away again. "Enough games." I shouted, voice trembling with anger and fear. I could not keep up with what I saw. "Show yourselves." As if in answer, I heard a soft whisper, "Follow the path." Suddenly, a narrow trail appeared, shrouded in shadows leading deeper into the woods. I hesitated. Everything inside me screamed to turn back, but something about the voice compelled me to take the first step onto the path. Then, to my horror, I heard the third child's voice ring out from the darkness. "You have to find us all if you want to leave." A chill wrapped around my spine as I felt the weight of eyes on me again. I turned back, but the house loomed, silent and watchful. Taking a breath, I stepped forward, knowing I was about to uncover whatever lay ahead. But once again, as I looked back, I saw a shadow lurking near the doorframe. Someone was still there. "Who are you?" I whispered to the darkness, heart racing. The darkness only thickened, and in that moment, I realized I was more lost than I had ever been. I stepped onto the trail, swallowed by the shadows of the trees. My pulse raced. The laughter seemed to drift from deeper within the woods, teasing and beckoning me forward. I took another step. The path wound like a serpent. Branches snagged at my clothes, scratching at my skin, a reminder of how close I was to danger. With each breath, the air grew colder, heavier, and the voices swelled in my ears. There was something here, something that didn't belong, lurking just out of sight. "Where are you?" I called out into the darkness, hoping for an answer. All I received was silence. But the darkness parted just enough for me to catch a glimpse of movement. A flash of white darted between two trees. Fear gripped my throat. It was one of the children. I plunged forward, racing after the flicker of pale fabric. "Wait!" I shouted again, determination edging into my voice. "Why are you doing this?" The only reply was another echo of soft giggles, high-pitched and echoing in the cool air. As I rounded a tree, I felt the hairs on my neck rise. A second child emerged from the shadows, peering at me with wide, innocent eyes that betrayed no emotions but mischief. "Do you really want to find us?" the child asked, voice chillingly calm. "Yes. Just tell me what you need," I pleaded, feeling the panic bubble up again. "Only if you play right," the child responded, slowly retreating into the shadow. "But remember, if you fall, you can't get up." I hesitated. "What does that mean?" I pressed, but nothing else came. The child was gone, absorbed back into the darkness, leaving only a lingering sense of dread. My mind raced. I couldn't let fear stop me. I had to keep going. I pressed deeper into the woods, where the trees twisted together, thick like bars. I had almost convinced myself to turn back when my foot struck something hard on the ground. I looked down. It was a small, weathered doll, its porcelain face cracked but eyes wide open, staring up at me. I picked it up, studying it. A chill rushed through me as I recognized a familiar detail. The doll wore a dress just like the one my sister used to have. Why was it here? Then I noticed it. A soft growl echoed through the trees, low and throaty. My heart dropped. I glanced around, breath hitching. I was not alone anymore. "I can feel you," I whispered, gripping the doll tightly. Our eyes locked, and I felt a surge of something. Was it fear? Or was it anger? Then rocks shifted behind me. I spun around, expecting more children, but instead, I was met with something far worse. A pair of dark eyes glimmered like embers in the shadows, growing closer. "Find us." The voice called again, but it didn't sound like a child anymore. It was deeper, menacing. I froze, a sickening dread pooling in my stomach. The doll slipped from my grasp, hitting the ground with a soft thud. I had stumbled into a game I no longer understood, and whatever was watching me was getting closer. In that instant, the path seemed to thin around me, the trees closing in, leaving little room for escape. I had to make a choice. I could stand here and face whatever was hunting me in the dark, or I could run blindly into the night. And as the shadows surged forward, I realized running might be my only option left. I bolted forward, adrenaline surging through my veins like fire. The muffled laughter echoed, warping into a cacophony that chased me from every angle. Branches ripped at my clothes and scraped against my skin as I plunged deeper into the darkness of the trees. Each step felt heavy, yet it propelled me closer to an unseen escape. "Stop!" A voice echoed behind me, impossibly cheerful, but it felt like a warning. I didn't dare flinch or look back. I had to focus on the path ahead, one foot moving faster than the last. My mind raced through every slender chance at survival, every route I could take. But the laughter grew fainter, replaced with a low growl that rumbled through the underbrush like a predator focused on its prey. I spotted a thinning in the trees and sprinted toward it, heart pounding against my ribcage. My hands grasped branches to propel myself forward, desperation pushing me beyond my limits. Could I fight whatever was coming? Did I even want to? I couldn't shake the feeling that my only option was to run. Bursting into a clearing, I skidded to a halt, panting as sweat dripped from my brow. Moonlight poured from above, illuminating a shallow pond at the center. For a moment, the beauty of it gripped my heart. But then I heard it, the sound of soft splashings in the water echoed through the stillness, and unease crept back in. "Come play." The child's voice rang out sweetly, but underlined with something sinister. I whipped around, brow furrowed. "Where are you?" I called out defiantly, knowing full well that whatever was stalking me was still there, lurking just beyond my sight. The surface of the pond glimmered calm, but the reflection revealed shadows that felt wrong. Subtle movements danced in the corners of my vision. I took a cautious step closer to the water's edge, fear gnawing at my gut, but something about it felt like a trap. That's when something tugged at my leg. I gasped and kicked back, but there was nothing there. Shadowy figures appeared at the edges of the trees. As my eyes adjusted to the dark, I caught sight of multiple childhood faces peering from the gloom, their eyes glistening with unnatural delight. "Find us. You can't escape," they sang in tandem. It was hypnotic, and the laughter mixed like water spilling over my ears. With one frantic motion, I turned and ran again, skirting around the edge of the pond, determined to break free from this nightmare. The laughter grew fainter, yet it urged me onward, a cruel nudge in the back of my mind. But the haunting feeling of being followed never faded. Just beyond my pace, something lingered, a shadow too deep, moving too fast, darting closer with each breath. Before I knew it, I stumbled, falling to my hands and knees on the wet ground. Breathing heavily, heart racing, I scrambled back up again. That's when I noticed flickering light off in the distance, a faint glow cutting through the darkness. Hope ignited within me. I charged toward it, not daring to look back. The shadows seemed to wail in protest, but their voices were drowned out by my own resolve. As I crossed through the threshold of trees, I burst into another clearing. The light revealed a dilapidated treehouse, its structure barely holding itself together. It rose above the ground, inviting in a way that made my heart thrum. I dove for the ladder, claws of panic pushing me upward, far from whatever hunted me. I made it to the landing, panting as I hoisted myself through the opening. The once bright interior was dusty, littered with scraps and remnants of long-forgotten memories. I pressed myself into a corner, peering out through broken windows, waiting, holding my breath. "Come back to play." Their voices trilled from below, echoing sweetly with a tone that felt distinctly wrong. They swarmed like a hive, their childish faces lit up by the moonlight, bodies weaving together beneath the treehouse. I felt my resolve falter. How could I escape if they were everywhere? The laughter circled like a vulture, ever present, teasing me for making it this far. And then, from the shadows, a deeper presence loomed. The voices craved my attention, beckoning me with promises of games and friendship, mirroring childhood innocence tainted by darkness. I squeezed my eyes shut, trembling against the thought of what could come through that door. "Join us." A voice called, more commanding now, its tone dropping like the temperature around me. "We want to play forever." I had to think fast. I couldn't stay here. But if I turned to flee, they'd be ready. What choice did I have left? After an eternity, I leaned back to the window, seeing through the haze of shadows that wrapped around the clearing. I saw movement, something pulled at the air, a figure that looked horrible and beautiful all at once. It hovered beneath the treehouse, waiting. I glanced toward the door, reunited with a conversation twisting dangerously in the silence of the night. The shadows shifted, uncertainty gnawing at my confidence. Just as I was ready to make my choice, the earth trembled softly beneath my feet. The treehouse lurched. I stumbled back, and a whispered laughter drifted up to me. "You could join us. It's safer that way." I shot back with instant anger. "No. I want out." But at that moment, something anchored me. The ground stopped shaking, the laughter quieted. I opened my eyes wide, feeling something shift within me. The whispers mixed again, layering their friendly laughter with an underlying danger I couldn't ignore. They wanted me to float into their game, to lose myself forever in this darkness. Then I made my choice. I turned away from the noise, turned myself back against the rooted fear. I needed to escape. Without hesitation, I made my way to the window again. If I dared leap, there was every chance I'd land myself right back in their arms. Still, with a deep breath, I hopped into the empty air, my heart racing as I fell. The shadows screamed as I hit the ground, the dust swirling up around me, but I didn't hesitate. I sprinted away again, tearing back through the woods, dodging branches and shoving through chaos. Their laughter chased me, but I knew I wouldn't stop until it broke into silence. Bursting back into the clearing, I followed the path of moonlight cutting through the darkness, fading footsteps creeping closer. I had made it this far, and I'd be damned if I surrendered now. As I stumbled toward the last stretch of trees, the shadows grew frantic behind me, screaming as if they were falling away, feeling the pull of the night receding. But there was still uncertainty looming. Would I truly be free? I dashed, heart pounding, and burst into the open air, feeling the warmth of the night safe around me. For a moment, I stood still, thinking I had made it, that I was free. But then the laughter lingered, quiet yet persistent, a resonating echo I could never shake. I had escaped their grasp, but as the darkness behind me faded, the nagging question clawed at my mind: had I truly left the game? Would I always find them again, next time whispering from the shadows, or laughing just beyond what I thought was safe? As I turned to leave, the darkness beyond still lingered, a shadow dancing just on the edge of my vision, a reminder that in the game of shadows, the players never truly let go.